Hello and welcome. In 2014, game company Ubisoft decided to bless the world with a brand new Far Cry game, and with it, possibly their most interesting antagonist ever. But to get to all that, we first have to meet the fictional country of Kyrat, situated somewhere in the Himalayas and based on the actual countries of Nepal and Bhutan. Kyrat has a tumultuous history, going from a colony of the British, may God have mercy on them for that, to having a civil war, to now where a drug lord rules as a king. This is where we meet Pagan Min.
They got out of control. Hate when things get out of control. This is more what I had in mind. Now, to whom am I speaking? The son who returned to scatter his mother's ashes, or the lunatic who has murdered his way to the top of my mountain? You'll love this part. Help. A text for help.
Now, there's probably a lot of questions to who this guy exactly is, and to answer those, we'll look from the perspective of RJ Gale, the protagonist of Far Cry 4, and in fact connected to Pagan by his maternal half-sister, Lakshmana Min. Although AJ has lived his entire life in America and is a fully naturalized American citizen with almost no connection to his heritage, save for his mother, whose final wish was for her ashes to be with Lakshmana, who tragically died at the hands of Ajay's father, Mohan Gale, the justification of which seemingly being revenge, a politically motivated move which then led to Mohan's death. There's a lot to unpack there. So, summarised, Mohan Gale and Ajay's mother, Ishwari, had AJ sometime between April and May of 1988 during the Civil War. But, as it would turn out, at some point, Ishwari had an affair with Pagan Min. Looking at it this way, Mohan and Pagan already hate each other, as they're fighting a war against one another. So it's pretty clear how Mohan could be motivated to literally murder a child, as he also wasn't exactly the most moral person, being a fighter on the royalist side in the Civil War and later founding a terrorist organisation, the Golden Path, which still openly rebels against Pagan Min's government to this day. So clearly Kyrat has some serious problems. Their king, Pagan Min, was crowned under, we'll say, dubious circumstances, literally murdering the heir and seizing it for himself and his Triad connections. But to AJ, that is no matter for him. He's happy to just cooperate and do what he's here to do and then leave. However, his entry to Kyrat goes south, severely, as Golden Path rebels were on the bus as he entered the country. He narrowly escaped death at the hands of Pagan's forces when the man himself sweeps in to pick him up at the opening scene. This says so many things. In fact, I'm just going to let it play, and I'll interject when something of note shows itself.
I distinctly remember saying, "Stop the bus." Yes, stop the bus. Not shoot the bus.
Now right here we see Pagan's absolute punctuality. Pagan expects his word to be followed to a T. No ifs, no buts.
I'm very particular with my words. Stop. Shoot. Stop. Shoot. Do those words sound the same?
That it got out of control.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. What'd you say?
It got out of control.
Got out of control. Hate when things get out of control. One fucking job, but you couldn't fucking do that!
And right there, that's exactly when we see Pagan's brutality. What you'll notice though, is that he says that he hates when things get out of control. Now the way I interpret that is that Pagan knows he has a temper, but that he also finds it really hard to control it. But he does very clearly enjoy violence to a dangerous degree.
And I got blood on my fucking shells. At least there's a silver lining. You didn't completely fuck it up. Get up, boy. I'd recognize those eyes anywhere. I'm so sorry about this. This was supposed to be... well, not this. We have a party waiting for you But I don't think I know your name. Who is this? Is this your +1?
Now this is something that I find really interesting about Pagan Min's personality. It's always incredibly captivating. His use of humour in, we'll say, less usual scenarios.
Strong, silent. I like it. I am terribly embarrassed about all of this. This was supposed to be very simple, but you know, if you give food to monkeys, they just throw their shit at each other. You know. Oh, would you hold this? For just a moment, I want to get a little picture right into the camera. There we are.
Now, this chunk of the scene is quite debatable. The Far Cry community seems to be quite split between it either being Pagan manipulating AJ and using his legacy as a way to weaken the rebels, which makes a lot of sense, whilst there's another chunk of the community that believes that Pagan does actually care about AJ. And here's my 2 cents on this. I would say that yes, Pagan Min does care about AJ, but he's a politician at heart. These things are just second nature for him. He might not have even thought about using it for his political gain, as later in the scene he goes on to talk about how much he's planned for the two of them.
Awesome. Don't worry about a thing, my boy. This will soon be behind us, and we'll be off on our grand adventure. Because I have cleared my calendar for you. You and I are gonna tear shit up!
Now let's relax a little. Clearly Pagan Min is a very flamboyant character, many assuming that he may be a homosexual from the in the last scene, but there's actually more nuance to his sexuality than just that. As yes, Pagan Min does like men, however, as he says to AJ, Ishwari was the only woman for him, in which he genuinely loved. We learn a tad more in the Far Cry 6 DLC, Control, that Pagan's father was deeply homophobic.
Are still a child with no self-control. I have turned a blind eye to your vices, but the fact that you are still fucking men!
Oh, please. What's the point of having power if you can't do whatever you... You touched my face.
Which caused Pagan to lash out violently, stating just before he killed him,
I wasn't planning on doing this so soon, but...
and then continuing. These flashbacks in the mission Thicker Than Water actually provide a lot of insight into Pagan Min's mind, from his own perspective, as we can learn from these flashbacks how much his own image actually matters to him. He spends his father's wealth on things like flashy cars and women's clothing, much to his father's disgust. A lot of Pagan's flamboyance comes from his personality, and his clear as day lust for power. Immediately after his father's death at his own hands, he inherited his father's position in the Triad, and immediately got to work making a name for himself, quite literally in fact, giving himself the moniker Pagan as a tribute to the Burmese king with a similar backstory to himself. Clearly he shows strong narcissistic tendencies. He has statues made from gold of himself and still finds ways to complain.
Really, RJ? What do you have against my likeness? All those posters, Eric, my double, and now this. Am I missing a hint? Should I start taking this personally? That statue was solid fucking gold. Literally. I'm not being metaphorical. Do you know how many artifacts I had to melt down to get it made? And poor Eric standing there for God knows how long just to pose for it. Oh, it's done, it's done.
Now let's go back to the bus scene, and follow the events of the game to the next scene. The infamous dinner table scene, which I'll do the same as before with. We open with a bag on our head and hear Pagan ordering it off, which he apologizes for, and the world's kindest dictator award goes to.
Well, go on, take the bloody bag off his head.
Again, terribly sorry for what happened before. This is more what I had in mind. So, fresh start. Introductions.
Here we can take note of Pagan Min's well-mannered side, taking the time to introduce everyone. On the left of AJ is the host, Paul Harmon, also known as Depleur. This is Pagan Min's third-in-command, an ex-CIA field agent with an incredibly sadistic tendency to torture. The CIA jokes really write themselves, don't they?
RJ Gale, our guest of honor. Paul, our very gracious host. The little monkey.
Now this is something of note. The man on the right that Pagan is addressing here is former Golden Path member and smuggler Darpan. He was one of the forming members of the Golden Path, and the little monkey was his alias. Pagan Min very often appropriates this name as an insult for Golden Path members, comparing them to uncivilized monkeys. This very clearly shows us his view of the Golden Path as a backwards, uncivilized people.
Whose name I still don't know, and I, of course, am Pagan Min. You really don't remember me, do you? Your mother, she never spoke of me, never mentioned me. No, we'll change all that. Paul, I need cash.
How much do you need?
All of it. Thank you.
Now this is quite clearly a shock for Pagan. He expected AJ's mother to at least mention him. Clearly he was more entranced with her than she was with him.
Here we go. All right. With this, with the smile. That's you. That's me. Although I'm not so sure anymore. Now your mother on the other hand, she understood me. She knew me in a way that no one ever did. That takes me back. The last time I saw Ishwari was years ago. She told me she loved me. Women, they can do that. They can tell you they love you in the moment and mean it. Men, on the other hand, no, men only really love you in hindsight. And too much distance is built up. So, when your mother decided to flee to the United States with you on her hip, I couldn't help but blame myself. Then I realized it's not me. No. It was the fucking Golden Path.
Pagan Min is very clearly deflecting the blame away from himself and instead blaming his most obvious enemy, the Golden Path, and thus blaming Mohan Ghale for driving the two of them apart.
Those fucking terrorists, they ruin everything. Like dinner. Did no one ever teach you that it's rude to text at the table? Let's see it. Hit me the phone. Really, guys? We're not checking for these anymore? I'm with RJ Ghale. You'll love this part. Help. A text for help. You don't text for help, you cry for help. So come on, you're gonna cry for help. If you're gonna do something, you're gonna do it right. Here we go. Go on. Cry for help. Cry for help. Help? Oh, pathetic. No, cry for help. Help! You mean it, boy. Help! Help! From your diaphragm! Help! Shh, 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 shh. Now we listen.
Now that is one of Pagan's strongest tendencies. He doesn't allow anything to be half done. Everything must be done to its fullest, to its absolute best. Because that is the way Pagan Min has learned to survive, by doing everything to its fullest, by being the most flamboyant, the most brutal, the most ambitious. He is always doing the absolute most that he can.
Nothing. I'm afraid they're not coming for you, buddy. Oh! Find out what he knows. Terrorists, right? Now, please, stay right here. Enjoy the crab rangoon. Don't move. I will be right back.
Now at this point you can actually control AJ and play the game, to which it immediately tells you that you should try to escape. But if you stick around and actually wait for Pagan Min to come back, you have to wait about 15 minutes in real time. But if you do, you will get a secret ending where you just skip the entire game, and Pagan simply takes you to Lakshmana's shrine, and lets you set her down to rest. Of course, he does tell you a bit of backstory about your father, clearly not a fan.
3-point landing. You know, part of me is surprised your mother asked for you to bring her all the way back here. Thank you, Kamran.
You want me to follow?
Jesus Christ. Yes, boy, the ashes aren't going to scatter themselves. Did your mother ever tell you about your father?
Never know.
Mohan, the great protector of the Golden Path. He was a cunt. He hauled your mother out, sent her to spy on me. But we fell in love. We had a child. And that is when Mohan showed his true colors. He drove you and your mother away. Even killed your sister.
Right here in the next line, you can truly hear the remorse in Pagan's voice when speaking about Lakshmana. He truly does regret the way things went.
Lakshmana, which brings us here. Lakshmana shouldn't be alone anymore. I'm so glad we're finally back together. After you.
Now, obviously, this wouldn't be Pagan Min if he didn't just introduce his son to the lavish life of being a dictator.
Oh, good. You feel better now? Get it out of your system? Good. Maybe now we can finally shoot some goddamn guns.
One thing that must be noted is that Pagan Min is always making sure that AJ is protected and treated with a modicum of respect. Even after killing Depleur and being imprisoned by Pagan's second in command, Yuma Lau, throughout this following cutscene, take note of how Pagan and Yuma tend to butt heads quite a lot.
You left the bag on his head? Well, can he breathe? Would you at least punch holes so he doesn't suffocate? Hello. Did we enjoy our time with the CIA? Welcome to Dagesh. I apologize for the Spartan accommodations, but you have been a naughty little shit, haven't you? Gallivanting about with a golden path. And poor Paul. Are you still sore about what he did with your little monkey friend? What was his name? Deadpan, dipshit, doorknob? I'm sorry for your ennui. But let me ease him into this humor. You're about to mind-fuck the poor boy. Perhaps a little sugar on your shit sandwich?
Whatever, you've seen him. He's still breathing. Now go away, I've got work to do.
Fine, fine, fine. But I want him alive, with all the bits that count intact. One last thing.
Now this line shows something about Pagan Min. His belief in tough love. He really doesn't want to harm AJ, but he understands that AJ doesn't exactly agree with Pagan on basically everything. Although they do solve most of their problems by shooting them. They do say hobbies get passed down.
Now, RJ, I know this is hard, but consider this tough love, prison love. After all, you have a suite with a spectacular view. Oh, and one final piece of advice. I wouldn't sleep too close to the edge. Whatever you say, dear.
Now, let me be completely honest. Throughout the entirety of Far Cry 4, the ending where you side with the psychopathic dictator is actually the best ending. Let me explain. At the beginning of Far Cry 4, when AJ enters Kyrat, the Golden Path are losing. Pretty badly too. If you play the game the usual way and play through the campaign, you get two choices. Either Sabal or Amita will assume control of Kyrat once Pagan is dead. Sabal is a militaristic theocrat whom, once in power, begins executing religious groups. And Amita, the other choice, wishes to modernize Kyrat, however, the cost being child soldiers and the creation of a narco-state, a literal country reliant on drugs, much like modern-day Afghanistan. Ironically, Pagan Min is the lesser of two evils. At one point, Pagan will even call you out on your actions. In the final mission, you can choose to either kill Pagan or spare him. Keep that in mind, up to this point, AJ has killed potentially thousands of Pagan's troops. Here's the interaction between the two.
Come in. I apologize for the austerity I sent to help home. Chances are you shot them on your way in. Now, before we begin, to whom am I speaking? The son who returned to scatter his mother's ashes, or the lunatic who has murdered his way to the top of my mountain? If I was speaking to the first guy, then I would say, sit down. Let's be civilized. Enjoy some food. But we tried that before, didn't we? At our first meeting? You sat right here. Paul was off applying voltage to the nipples of your rude little +1. I stood just like this. And what were my exact words? Stay here. Enjoy the crab rangoon. Don't move. I'll be right back. Now, if you had just listened, just waited for me, then we would have come back here straight away, together. and scattered your mother's ashes. So then you must be the second guy who didn't listen, decided instead to join the other monkeys and start throwing his shit around. But I'll tell you what. I call a do-over. I say you have two choices. One, you could shoot me, boring, or you could sit down, enjoy some food, and you and I will go scatter your mother's ashes together. So, who did you kill?
At this point in the story, AJ has either sided with the Meter or Sabal, which in fact does seal their fate. He understands how the Golden Path works. He knows that no leader would be content with second in command.
Is it Amitar? Sabal? Doesn't really matter. I already know. I just want to hear you say it.
Fuck you.
My goodness, boy, you didn't even blink. Well, you do realize that you're just giving away your country, right? It's yours. It's always been yours. Kyrat is yours. I pulled you off the bus in the first place to pass it on to you. I suppose you could take it back. You're halfway there. One down, one to go. Not that I want to put ideas in your head. At least now we know you have a taste for doing what it takes. Well, no more putting it off, I suppose. Well, come on. And don't forget your mother. You do realize that urn represents all that's left of the old RJ. The pre-Kyrat RJ. Once you spread those ashes, all the ties you have to that previous life are gone. And then what happens? Well, I suppose you could do what I did after Mohan killed Lakshmana. Oh, you didn't know that, did you? Huh. Yes, your father killed your half-sister, and then your mother killed him in return. I simply continued where she left off. I killed so many people for them.
This next line, that one right there, this is the reality Pagan Min lives in. He doesn't kill for Lakshmana or for Kyrat, or even for Ishwari. He kills for himself, and he knows it.
But then I realized I was only using Lakshmana's death as an excuse to do whatever I wanted to do. Just as you use those ashes as an excuse to do whatever you want to do. God damn if it isn't fun.
But he still does it. He knows that he doesn't have a real justification for it, but he enjoys it.
Well, you finally made it. You know, the one and only time I walked into this place, I came in a sane man and came out like this. You will come out a king. Well, go on then. Do what you came here to do.
All choices have consequences, RJ. I've given you Kyrat, but I'm keeping the helicopter.
And this is exactly where Pagan finally decides that AJ is ready. He knows that he, without a doubt, has what it takes to rule over Kyrat. Whether he really does or not is left ambiguous. Now, if this was 2014, then this would be the end of the video. But alas, It's not 2014. And in 2022, Ubisoft released the aforementioned Control DLC for Far Cry 6, and it actually sheds more light on Pagan Min's inner thoughts. This DLC takes place in Pagan Min's mind. In this DLC, Pagan primarily fights against the Golden Path, in his mind dubbed as the Tainted Path. This is shared in their appearance, splattered with colours and vibrancy. Throughout the DLC we can find depictions of AJ, but they aren't corrupted much like the Tainted Path. AJ is just as he was in real life. Clearly, this shows that while biased, Pagan does actually see AJ as merely misguided and not actively against him. In Pagan's head, his ideal life is one with his family, all together and happy. We see this in the opening cutscene, as this is how he wishes his life to be.
Now, Ishwari, darling, move Lakshmana to the left. RJ, tell your mother and sister to... No!
What have you done?
No, it wasn't me, that was...
Come on. You can't lie about who you are. Not in here.
Now this black-suited version of Pagan is dubbed the Tyrant. This is how Pagan Min views his more murderous dictatorial side. The entire DLC is a metaphor for the internal battle inside Pagan's head, the constant battle for control. Furthermore, we can see the way Pagan's thought process works through the way he actively manipulated Yuma Lao.
You don't deserve the throne. You've forgotten how you got it.
She thought you did this because you loved her.
You did more than just avenge my father's death. You secured my future. Whatever you need, whatever you want. I'll give you everything.
She certainly loved you.
I... did love her.
Sure.
I don't think I have to explain that scene much. Very clearly, Pagan Min exploited Yuma Lao's love for him in order to fully seize control of the Triad. If I was to give a diagnosis on Pagan Min, I would have to say he is suffering from antisocial personality disorder, also known as sociopathy, alongside narcissistic personality disorder, with his egotistical and often Machiavellian tendencies. Whilst he very clearly is not insane, he is most definitely dangerous, especially in positions of power or around easily manipulated people.
Enjoy the power, RJ. You deserve it. Love always. Uncle Pagan.